It also happens that you've been working on the India-China boundary issue for a very long time now as it pertains to the eastern sector. What is your prognosis of this matter?
Like I said, I do not believe that the eastern sector, which is so well guarded and well fortified by our forces, you see, as I said, there are 2 corps, 3 and 4 corps, sort of, with their forward deployments in the eastern sector. So I think all is well as far as that is concerned. There would be, in disputed areas or claimed areas, patrolling from both the sides. It's not as if only the PLA is patrolling, but our patrols also go, and that is primarily because there is a misperception about where the LSC exactly is. As far as I'm concerned, there are 2 LSCs. One is a Chinese LSC, line of actual control. One is the Indian line of actual control. And that is where the face-off happens. And in fact, when you agree, this is a little bit of hilarity here, you agree on an LSC when actually are 2 LSCs. You see, the perceptions are so, so different. So that is the difference. Like, for instance, in Bumla, when I went, there was just a heap of stones. When the patrol goes, you just throw a stone into the heap and that becomes higher and higher. And that becomes the dividing line between India and China. I've been there for the CPMs and the border personnel meetings once. And I've seen the huge heap of stone. That is the boundary for you. And sometimes there is a nala, that is the boundary. And then, as I said, in places like the fishtail 1 and fishtail 2, you do not know where the boundary is. That is why sometimes when you're returning from a patrol onto the forward area, you come across a Chinese patrol which is returned from the Indian side. Right. And sometimes, there have been stories where great bonhomie actually has happened between the two patrols. Actually sit down, share, their refreshments, cigarettes, etc., and they go their way. Yes, belligerence has risen over the time, but I feel that a novel concept like a line of amity, and I'm not saying this because I'm the progenitor of this idea, but the fact of the matter is, it is something which is little non-conventional, and I think it could be considered. The first step by which it can be considered is by actually constituting a boundary commission. Now, what are the sort of personnel who would constitute this boundary commission? Naturally, former generals, former diplomats, certainly people from the Survey General of India. And I might also tell you that there is something which I'm sure you're aware about. There's something called the China Study Group, which actually ordains much of the protocols and such other aspects for the India-China boundary, including limits of patrolling. Now, I was talking to a former foreign secretary when I was holding a webinar last year in the backdrop of the Galwan incident. But the unfortunate aspect is that the China Study Group hardly ever goes to places where the disputed areas are there on the ground, and perhaps they are content with visiting places like Guwahati, and from where they can get their reports, and they hardly go to places like Kinjamane or Chatluhogam or Walong, etc., where the real problem is. And I think that should be corrected. And I believe this government is actually taking these matters quite seriously at this point of time.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. धन्यवाद, नमस्कार.